Welcome back to my channel Valuable Rare Coins. If you're passionate about rare and valuable coins, then you're in for a real treat today. We're going to take a deep dive into one of the most iconic coins in US history, the Washington quarter dollar coin from 1965. You might think it's just a regular coin, but trust me, this particular coin is far from ordinary. In fact, it could be worth much more than you ever imagined. Stick with us, because by the end of this video, you'll learn not only about its rich history, but also why it might just be worth a small fortune. Let's start by setting the stage with a little background on the Washington quarter itself. First introduced in 1932, the Washington quarter was designed to honor the first president of the United States, George Washington. This coin quickly became a staple of American currency, beloved for its patriotic symbolism and timeless design. The obverse side features a portrait of Washington, and the reverse shows an eagle, which was later redesigned to include a heraldic eagle as part of the U.S. Mint's updates. But for the purpose of today's discussion, we'll be focusing on the 1965 version of the coin. Now, what makes the 1965 Washington quarter particularly interesting and valuable is the year itself. In 1965, the United States was in the middle of a time of major change. The country had just experienced the Kennedy assassination in 1963, the civil rights movement was gaining momentum, and the Vietnam War was escalating. This period was marked by great social and political upheaval, and it left an indelible mark on American society. In the world of coinage, 1965 is a significant year because it was the first time that U.S. coins were produced without silver in their composition. That's right, the 1965 Washington quarter is made of a copper-nickel clad, a departure from the silver that had been used in previous years. This was a crucial shift, driven by a nationwide coin shortage and rising silver prices, but it's precisely because of this change that the 1965 Washington quarter holds such importance for collectors. In 1964, the U.S. Mint had produced quarters with 90% silver content. But due to inflation and the rising cost of silver, the decision was made to strike coins with a copper-nickel alloy instead, making the 1965 Washington quarter one of the first major shifts in American coinage for a long time. Though many collectors focus on earlier, silver-based quarters, the 1965 quarter stands out as a key turning point in the history of U.S. currency. Now, let's talk about the design. The 1965 Washington quarter features a classic image of George Washington's profile on the obverse side, with the inscription, Liberty, above his head, and the year, 1965, beneath his chin. The design was created by artist John Flanagan and has remained largely unchanged since its debut. On the reverse, you'll find the eagle in flight, surrounded by the words, United States of America, and E pluribus unum, with a $quarter denomination displayed beneath it. The coin's simplicity and timeless design are part of what makes it so appealing. But when it comes to value, we need to consider a few key factors. One of the first things collectors look for in a coin like this is its condition. Coins that have been heavily circulated, with visible wear and tear, are typically worth only their face value, or perhaps a little more. However, if you manage to find a 1965 Washington quarter in mint or near-mint condition, it can be worth a lot more. Coins that have been kept in pristine condition, with little to no signs of wear, are highly sought after by collectors, which can significantly drive up their value. Another thing to keep in mind is that the 1965 Washington quarter is often overlooked because of its composition change. Many collectors are more focused on earlier, silver quarters, or those with unique errors. But here's the thing, there are rare variations and minting errors in the 1965 series that make certain coins incredibly valuable. These include coins with minting flaws such as double dies, off-center strikes, or coins with missing details in the design. Errors like these make a coin a one-of-a-kind piece, which drives up its price at auctions and among private collectors. And then there's the rarest of the rare, the 1965 Washington quarter with silver content. Now, this is where things get truly interesting. Due to a small batch of 1965 quarters that were mistakenly struck with silver, these coins are among the most valuable in the entire series. It's estimated that only a handful of these silver quarters were accidentally minted, making them extremely difficult to find. If you happen to have one of these rare silver 1965 Washington quarters, you could be sitting on an absolute treasure. So, what exactly is the value of a 1965 Washington quarter today? Well, it depends on several factors like its condition, any potential minting errors, and whether or not it has the rare silver content. In general, a well-preserved 1965 quarter might be worth a few dollars more than its face value, but when you're talking about a 1965 Washington quarter with significant errors or, even rarer, one of those few silver versions, the price skyrockets. To give you an idea, a 1965 Washington quarter that's in excellent, uncirculated condition could be worth anywhere from several hundred to a few $1,000s. But if you happen to have the silver version of this coin, the value could be much higher. In fact, for those silver error coins or those in exceptional condition, the value could reach an astonishing $90,000. That's right, $90,000 for a single 1965 Washington quarter. So, if you have a collection of quarters lying around, it might be time to take a closer look at your 1965 Washington quarters. You could be holding on to a coin that's far more valuable than you thought. Whether it's the rarity of the silver version, the unique minting errors, or simply a pristine specimen, this coin could very well be worth a small fortune. Second rare coin, we're diving into one of the most iconic coins in U.S. history, the Washington $quarter coin from 1971. Now, you might be thinking, isn't that just another regular coin? But trust me, the 1971 Washington quarter is far from ordinary, and it holds the potential to be worth much more than you ever expected. Stick around until the end, because we'll reveal just how much this coin could be worth in today's market. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of its value, let's take a step back and look at the history of the Washington quarter. The Washington quarter, first introduced in 1932, was designed to honor George Washington, the first president of the United States. The original design features his iconic profile, and it's become one of the most recognizable coins in U.S. currency. The coin has been in circulation for nearly a century, and over time, its design has remained largely the same. But what makes the 1971 coin so interesting is the year itself, as it marks a pivotal time in American coinage. By the time 1971 rolled around, the United States was in the midst of a major shift in its coin production. Prior to 1971, U.S. coins were primarily made of silver, but due to rising silver prices and coin shortages, the U.S. Mint switched to using copper-nickel alloys for many of its coins. The 1971 Washington quarter was one of the first coins to be struck entirely from a copper-nickel-clad composition, making it distinct from earlier silver quarters. This change was not just a technical one. It was part of a larger shift in how the United States would produce and circulate coins moving forward. While the silver content of coins may have been phased out, the importance of the Washington quarter remained unchanged. It continued to serve as a symbol of American history and pride, representing Washington's legacy as the leader of the nation. When we take a closer look at the design of the 1971 Washington quarter, we can appreciate the timeless simplicity and elegance of the coin. The obverse features the well-known portrait of George Washington, his image captured with incredible detail and dignity. The inscription around the image reads "Liberty," and the year, 1971, appears beneath his chin. Surrounding the portrait are the words, "In God We Trust," further underscoring the coin's patriotic significance. On the reverse side of the coin, we see the traditional eagle design. This heraldic eagle, with its wings spread wide, holds a bundle of arrows in one claw and an olive branch in the other, symbolizing the United States' power and peace. Above the eagle, the words "United States of America" are inscribed, along with the coin's denomination, $quarter. The reverse design has remained largely unchanged since the original Washington quarter was introduced in 1932, making this coin not only valuable but also deeply connected to American heritage. Now, what about the value of this coin? While the 1971 Washington quarter might not have the same inherent value as older silver coins, that doesn't mean it's without worth. In fact, The value of a 1971 Washington quarter can vary greatly depending on its condition and any unique features it might have. For most of us, a standard 1971 quarter in average circulation condition is worth just a few cents more than its face value. However, things get much more interesting when we look at the rarer, high-quality versions. Collectors are always on the lookout for coins that have been well preserved, free from scratches, dings, or wear from circulation. The coins that remain in mint or near-mint condition are much more desirable to collectors and can fetch a significantly higher price. A 1971 Washington quarter that's in pristine, uncirculated condition is far rarer than the ones we encounter on a daily basis, and this can increase its value substantially. But what really sets certain 1971 Washington quarters apart from the rest are the potential minting errors. Every once in a while, a coin can leave the mint with some sort of imperfection, such as a misstrike, an off-center design, or even double die errors. These minting errors can turn an otherwise ordinary coin into a highly valuable collectible. For example, some 1971 quarters were struck with noticeable imperfections, making them unique. Collectors are always on the lookout for these one-of-a-kind pieces, and if you happen to have a 1971 quarter with an error, you could be sitting on a gold mine. So, how much can a 1971 Washington quarter actually be worth? As with any coin, the value depends largely on its condition, rarity, and any potential minting errors it may have. In general, a standard 1971 Washington quarter in average condition is worth just a small premium over its face value, maybe a few dollars. But if you've got a coin in exceptional condition or one with a rare minting error, the value can skyrocket. And when it comes to a perfect specimen or a particularly rare error coin, the value could be far more than you'd expect after looking at recent sales and auctions. We've found that a pristine 1971 Washington quarter with the right combination of condition and rarity can fetch a price as high as $50,000. That's right, $50,000 for a single 1971 Washington quarter. Imagine finding one of these coins tucked away in an old coin jar or at a local estate sale. You could potentially walk away with a small fortune. In conclusion, the 1971 Washington quarter dollar coin may seem like just another coin in your pocket, but it's far more than that. Its historical significance, iconic design, and potential rarity make it a valuable piece for collectors. Whether it's the condition of the coin, a rare minting error, or simply the right market timing, the 1971 quarter could be worth a lot more than its face value. So, the next time you're rummaging through your change, take a second look at those 1,971 quarters. You might just have a hidden treasure on your hands. Third expensive coin, we're going to focus on a coin that may not seem like much at first glance. But trust me, if you're a coin collector or someone looking to dive into the exciting world of rare coins, this one's going to blow your mind. We're talking about the 1979 Washington quarter dollar coin. Now, you might be thinking, what makes the 1979 Washington quarter so special? Well, stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll see exactly why this coin can be worth a whole lot more than you probably think. Let's start with a quick refresher on the history of the Washington quarter itself. Introduced in 1932, the Washington quarter was designed by John Flanagan to commemorate George Washington, the first president of the United States. The coin quickly became iconic, with its image of Washington's profile and the eagle on the reverse side, symbolizing the strength and unity of the United States. The design has stood the test of time, with only slight modifications over the years. Now, let's fast forward to 1979. By this point, the Washington quarter had already been in circulation for decades, and it was a staple of everyday U.S. currency. However, 1979 was an interesting year for a number of reasons, one of the most notable being the changing state of U.S. coinage. In the late 1970s, inflation and rising metal prices began to put pressure on the mint's ability to produce coins. This led to some changes in the minting process and, as we'll discuss in just a bit, some very rare and valuable varieties of the 1979 Washington quarter. When you look at the 1979 Washington quarter, you'll see the same familiar design, George Washington's bust on the obverse, facing to the left. Surrounding his image is the inscription Liberty with the year 1979 below his chin. And of course, you'll also see the motto, "In God We Trust," written nearby. On the reverse side, the eagle is shown with its wings outstretched, grasping an olive branch in one talon and a bundle of arrows in the other. Above the eagle is the inscription, United States of America, and below it, the denomination quarter dollar. This design remained largely unchanged from the original Washington quarter introduced in 1932, and it's part of what makes this coin so recognizable. However, even though the design remained the same, the 1979 Washington quarter stands out due to a few important factors that make it unique in the eyes of collectors. One key element is the shift in coin production that took place during this time. By 1979, the U.S. Mint was moving forward with new methods of coin production, and there were several notable variations in the 1979 quarters. For example, there were some coins struck with slightly different minting techniques, and in some cases, there were even noticeable errors that occurred during the production process. For collectors, these errors are where the real value lies. Minting errors are one of the biggest driving factors behind the value of certain coins, and the 1979 Washington quarter is no exception. Some of the most notable errors from the 1979 quarters include double die errors, where the design was struck more than once, creating a noticeable overlap in the features of the coin. These types of errors can occur during the minting process, and they make the coin unique and highly desirable to collectors. Another error that is especially sought after is the wide rim variety. This variety was created when the coin's rim was struck in a way that left it noticeably wider than usual. These coins are extremely rare, and they can fetch quite a premium when sold at auction or to serious collectors. The 1979 Washington quarter with a wide rim is considered one of the most valuable and rare coins in the series. Now, we've talked about some of the rarer varieties and errors. But what about the general value of a 1979 Washington quarter? In typical circulated condition, this coin is worth just a little more than its face value of 25 cents. However, as with any collectible, the condition of the coin plays a significant role in its worth. A well-maintained quarter, one that has been kept in pristine condition and hasn't seen much wear and tear from circulation, can command a higher price, but that's just the tip of the iceberg, if you happen to have one of the rare varieties. A 1979 Washington quarter with a minting error like the double die or wide rim, then the value of your coin could be significantly higher. In fact, some of these coins have been known to fetch thousands of dollars, especially if they are in exceptional condition and have been certified by a professional grading service. The rarity of these minting errors, combined with the increasing demand for unique and collectible coins, makes these 1979 Washington quarters extremely valuable to the right buyer. But here's the big surprise for you. If you happen to own a 1979 Washington quarter in mint state or with one of these rare errors, it could be worth an astonishing $40,000. That's right, $40,000 for a single coin. A 1979 Washington quarter with a minting error or in pristine condition could easily fetch that kind of price at a coin auction or from the right collector. That's the kind of value that can turn a small, unassuming coin into a life-changing treasured S.O. The next time you're going through your coin collection or you come across a 1979 Washington quarter, take a closer look. Is there a double die error? A wide rim? Or maybe just a coin that's been kept in immaculate condition? You could be sitting on a rare find that's worth far more than its face value. Now, we're going to talk about a coin that you might not think of as a high-value collectible at first, but believe me, the 1988 D Washington quarter dollar coin could be worth a lot more than you expect. Stick around because by the end of this video, you'll understand why this seemingly ordinary coin is a must-have for any serious collector and how it could potentially make you a lot of money. The Washington quarter, as most of you probably know, has been a staple in U.S. currency since its introduction in 1932. The coin was designed by John Flanagan and is a tribute to George Washington, the first president of the United States. Since its debut, the design of the Washington quarter has remained largely the same, with Washington's portrait gracing the obverse and the eagle featured on the reverse side. However, despite this consistent design, some years stand out more than others in terms of rarity, condition, and value. And that brings us to the 1988 D Washington quarter. Now, you might be wondering, what makes the 1988 D quarter so interesting? Well, first off, the D mint mark on the coin indicates that it was minted in Denver. The 1988 D coin, like many quarters from that era, was part of a standard series that went into circulation. However, what most people don't realize is that there are specific coins from this era, including the 1988 D, that are more sought after than others, especially when it comes to the condition of the coin or any unique features it might have. The 1988 Washington quarter was struck during a time when the U.S. Mint was producing millions of coins. However, because most of these quarters were circulated, many of them have experienced wear and tear over the years. The 1988 D quarter that you come across in your change may seem like just another standard quarter, but it could have the potential to be much more valuable depending on a few key factors. Let's talk about what makes a 1988 D Washington quarter really stand out. First and foremost, the coin's condition is crucial. If you happen to come across a 1988 D quarter that's in mint state, that is, one that hasn't been circulated and shows little to no signs of wear, then you're already looking at a coin that is far more valuable than the face value of 25 cents. A pristine, uncirculated coin can be worth several times its face value, and that's the first thing to look for when assessing the value of your 1988 D quarter. However, the real excitement comes when you start to look for coins with rare features. One of the things collectors are always searching for are minting errors, those little mistakes that occur during the production process. Minting errors can happen for a variety of reasons. Coins might be struck with double dies, off-center strikes, or other inconsistencies that make them unique. These errors are rare, and when they happen, they create some of the most valuable coins on the market. For example, one of the most coveted 1988 D Washington quarters would be one with a noticeable double die error. A double die occurs when the coin's design is struck more than once, creating an overlapping image. This can happen on both the obverse and reverse of the coin, and it's especially noticeable on the letters or numbers. A 1988 D quarter with this type of error would be extremely rare, and collectors would pay top dollar for it. Other errors, such as off-center strikes or a die crack, could also make a 1988 D quarter more valuable. Additionally, the overall rarity of a well-preserved 1988 D quarter with no noticeable wear is also something that adds to its value. While millions of these quarters were struck and put into circulation, only a small number of them are still in pristine condition today. The fact that the coin has been kept in mint condition, free from scratches or other signs of damage, makes it much more desirable to collectors who are looking for high-quality coins to add to their collections. So, how much could a 1988 D Washington quarter be worth? While most of the 1988 D quarters you come across are likely worth only a few dollars, a rare, uncirculated 1988 D quarter can fetch significantly more. But if you've got one of those ultra-rare minting error coins, or one in perfect condition that hasn't been in circulation for decades, you could be looking at a much higher value. Now, for the big reveal. If you happen to find a 1988 D Washington quarter with the right combination of rarity, condition, and possibly a minting error, it could be worth as much as $35,000. Yes, you heard that correctly. $35,000 for a single 1988 D Washington quarter. That's the kind of value we're talking about for a coin that, at first glance, might seem like just another piece of pocket change. So, what should you do if you think you have a valuable 1988 D Washington quarter? The first thing is to examine it carefully. Look for signs of minting errors, such as doubling on the design or an off-center strike. Make sure to inspect the condition of the coin closely. Coins that are in mint state or close to mint state are always more valuable than those with visible wear. And if you think you might have a rare version of the coin, consider getting it professionally graded by a certified coin grading service to get an official appraisal of its value. In conclusion, while the 1988 D Washington quarter might seem like a common coin from a routine year, it's actually a piece of history that could be worth a lot more than you think. Whether you're a seasoned collector or a casual coin enthusiast, it's always worth checking your coins carefully because you never know when you might stumble upon a hidden gem. Who knows? That 1988 D Washington quarter you have tucked away might just turn out to be your next big find. Last unique coin, we're going to talk about a coin that might be hiding in your collection or even in your pocket change, the 1991 D Washington quarter dollar coin. At first glance, this might seem like just another ordinary quarter, but stick around because by the end of this video, you'll understand why this coin is worth much more than its face value. The Washington quarter has a long and storied history, and it's one of the most recognized and widely circulated coins in the United States. The design, created by John Flanagan, has remained remarkably consistent since its debut in 1932. On the obverse side of the coin, you'll find George Washington's profile, and on the reverse, there's the image of the American bald eagle, symbolizing strength and freedom. Over the years, many different versions of this quarter have been minted, and each year brings its own unique story. And today, we're zooming in on the 1991 D Washington quarter dollar coin, SO. What makes the 1991 D quarter so special? To understand that, we need to take a quick look at the context in which it was minted. In 1991, the U.S. economy was recovering from the effects of the late 1980s recession, and the mint was still producing coins in high numbers to meet the demand for currency. The 1991 D quarter was struck in Denver, which is why it bears the D mint mark. As is typical for most coins from that era, millions of 1991 D quarters were produced, and they went into circulation in large quantities. However, as with many coins, the value of a 1991 D Washington quarter isn't just determined by the year it was minted, it's determined by a variety of factors, including condition, rarity, and unique features. Let's start with the basics. Most of the 1991 D quarters you come across will likely be in fairly average condition. They've been through circulation, which means they've likely picked up scratches, scuffs, and other signs of wear and tear. These coins, while still valuable as a part of the larger coinage system, won't typically fetch much more than their face value of 25 cents. So, what's the secret that makes this coin worth far more than that? The value of a 1991 D Washington quarter dramatically increases if it's in uncirculated condition. If you happen to have a 1991 D quarter that looks like it just came out of the mint, sharp details, no visible scratches, and minimal wear, then you're sitting on a coin that could be worth a significant amount more than you might think. Coins in mint state, or those that have been carefully preserved, are always more valuable because they show off the craftsmanship and detail that can fade over time when coins are used in daily transactions. But that's not all. There's another element that collectors are always on the lookout for: minting errors. Minting errors are mistakes that occur during the coin production process, and they can make an otherwise ordinary coin incredibly valuable. These errors can include double die strikes, off-center strikes, and various types of die cracks. Coins with minting errors are often one of a kind, which makes them highly sought after by collectors who want to add something truly unique to their collections. In the case of the 1991 D Washington quarter, certain minting errors could make a coin worth much more than just a few dollars. For example, if your coin has a double die error where part of the design is imprinted twice, that could make it incredibly rare and increase its value exponentially. Off-center strikes, where the design isn't properly aligned on the coin, can also make your 1991 D quarter stand out in the eyes of collectors, driving up its value. As for the 1991 D Washington quarter's overall rarity, there's something else that plays a role in determining its worth. Because many of the 1991 D quarters were minted in large quantities and circulated for years, finding one in pristine, uncirculated condition is not as common as you might think. Over time, coins that were in circulation have worn down, and the finer details of the coin have often been lost due to friction and handling. This means that collectors who want to own a high-quality example of the 1991 D Washington quarter are willing to pay a premium for one that's in top-notch condition. So, how much could a 1991 D Washington quarter be worth? While the majority of these coins in circulated condition will still be worth their face value or a small premium, a coin that is in pristine condition or has a minting error could fetch far more. If you happen to have an uncirculated 1991 D Washington quarter, or better yet, One with a rare minting error like a double die strike or off-center misstrike, you might be looking at a coin that could sell for a significant amount. And now for the big reveal. If you happen to possess a 1991 D Washington quarter that is in mint state or has a rare error, it could be worth as much as $25,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, $25,000. For a single quarter. This is the kind of value we're talking about when it comes to finding rare coins with pristine condition or minting errors. So, if you've got a 1991 D Washington quarter stashed away somewhere, it's definitely worth taking a closer look. Inspect it for any signs of wear or minting errors, and if you think it might be in exceptional condition, you could be holding onto a real treasure. Consider getting it professionally graded by a reputable coin grading service to get an official appraisal and see just how much it might be worth in today's market. That's all for today's deep dive into the 1991 D Washington quarter. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about rare and valuable coins, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any future discoveries. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the most valuable treasures are hiding in plain sight. Happy coin hunting!